Hello, everyone. Today I am going to be covering the 12th studio album that was just released by Canadian superstar, which is Miss Céline Dion. As I said, this is her 12th studio album. That's not including her French albums, by the way. And it is also her first album in English in 6 years. Her last album that was in English was Loved Me Back to Life, which was released exactly 6 years ago in the fall of 2013. She then released an album in the summer of 2016 called Encore un soir, which was a French album, which I thought was actually really beautiful. It's actually the only French album of hers that I have actually listened to. I have not heard a note from any of the other ones. Those albums are not really made for the US market. They're not really promoted that well. They're more intimate. They're not so, these power chorus belting songs. And that album was made just after her husband of 20 years, René Angelil, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, sadly passed away from throat cancer in 2016. He was actually diagnosed with cancer not long after her last English album came out back in 2013. I think it was only a few months after that album was released. So it was a couple years, and it was a really hard time for both of them, obviously. And then he passed away. I think he was quite a bit older than her. So, it is what it is. It's a very tragic thing. And this is her first English record that she has written, or, well, that she has recorded. Celine doesn't write her own music. She talks about how, it was hard for her to, she performed a song called Recovering that had been written by Pink back in 2016. And a lot of people thought that that was going to be a single for an upcoming English album that was supposed to come out the following year. That never happened. It eventually was not until 2019 when she ended her latest Vegas residency that she announced a new world tour and a new album to come out in the fall, which she is currently on this world tour. There are a lot of really exciting songwriters that she employed for this record. Whenever Celine is writing an album, there's tons of songs that are sent to her and, all these contenders. But there are some longtime collaborators that she's worked with, such as Diane Warren, someone who's written several of her big hits like Because You Loved Me. And also Stefan Mochio, who worked on A New Day Has Come. She also collaborated with Sia on 3 songs on this new record, Lying Down, Baby, and Heart of Glass. Other songwriters that worked on this record include Sam Smith. He worked on The Lover That I Lost, and David Guetta. He's a big, hit maker, as well as Johan Carlson, Skylar Grey, The Stereotypes, and Steve Aoki, among many others. So we get 16 songs on the standard edition version of this album and 20 songs on the deluxe. And I will be talking about the deluxe edition of the record. However, because there are 20 songs and because, I love Celine, I love her music, but, I tend to do deep dives in my reviews of these albums. And I usually am doing that when I'm reviewing also the album's lyrics. But in the case of Celine's music, because she doesn't write the lyrics herself, that's not to say I'm going to completely disregard the lyrics, but I'm not going to spend so much time talking about all of the songs on this record. I'm going to kind of spend more time talking about my favorites, because there are 20 songs, and in my opinion, there are quite a few that maybe could have been put on the cutting room floor, just because I do think albums that get that long, even 16 is kind of a longer record for a standard edition. There tends to be a lot of filler and some songs that maybe aren't quite as stellar. But I was expecting, after Loved Me Back to Life from 6 years ago, I was expecting this record to be filled with a lot of mainstream sounding electronic dance music. Her last English album was definitely pushing itself in a more urban, contemporary direction, and one could argue that her music, all the way since her 2002 album, A New Day Has Come, has been pushing in that direction. A lot of people think that Celine's best music was released in the 90s, and that in the 2000s she kind of started to become too mainstream. Her sound became a little too auto-tuned or too watered down to fit, a traditional pop sound in dance pop music. And I can see where that's coming from. The lead single off of this record, Flying on My Own, is a song that's made specifically for the nightclubs of Vegas. it has that, soaring big drop and then that pulsating rhythmic EDM pulse that we come to expect from, a nightclub, Vegas foam party type EDM song. And it features her vocals being quite heavily auto tuned, which is not something I'm such a fan of. Celine has probably one of the strongest vocal talents of any artist that's ever walked this earth. I'm going to be completely upfront about that, and I will defend that with my honor. I think she is one of the best vocalists of all time. And the fact that, her vocals are being watered down to fit, standard EDM, four on the floor dance music is a bit unfortunate. This is also because I feel like Flying on My Own just feels a little derivative. The song actually, although it really feels like it's trying to take off of a runway, so to speak, the song actually feels kind of weighed down by all the over the top production that's around her vocals. Um, Even, the call and response style of On the Wings of Your Love, like it feels like it wants to be this big power ballad, but it's just oversaturated with all of these extra bells and whistles that could easily have been taken out. So yeah, Flying on My Own, it was not a song that got me very excited for this record. I gotta be honest with you. When I heard that song, I was like, all right, we're gonna get an album that feels way too contemporary for Celine, that just feels very watered down, not something personal or epic in the way her past albums have been. And a lot of her more recent English albums, like Taking Chances and Love Me Back to Life, were very much that similar sort of album. So I was very concerned, to be completely honest. But then we got three new songs in September. We got the Sia penned song Lying Down, which, I mean, you don't even need to say that Sia was on this track. It's obvious when you listen to the chorus. It sounds a little bit like a lot of other songs that Sia has done or performed. And it's not bad. However, it's definitely not one of the songs that stands out to me as much as some of the others. Imperfections is a song that's grown on me over time. At first, I heard it and I thought, oh, yeah, it's still quite mainstream. It's really catchy. It's got this nice sort of vocal distortion that is used, but it still feels kind of like traditional sort of David Guetta fare. But actually, the more I listen to it and looking at the music video, which is so editorialized and so glossy and chic, yet it's all black and white, making it feel not too frou-frou. It feels very like elegant and tasteful. It shows Celine, she's a 52-year-old woman who, has gone through a lot of heartache, is going through a new change in her life right now in terms of her, partner passing away and changing up what she's trying to do and still keeping the authentic, true nature of herself intact. And, through all the fame and all of the money that she has received, she is still trying to stay true to herself. I think, wiping off the makeup, the close looks of her face. The editorial shots are so strong in this music video, and it elevates the song, the meaning for it for me. And I love the keyboard that comes in, the piano. It's actually a real elevating track for me. And it's one that I think blends up. It's a perfect blend between the adult contemporary, safe, supermarket, EDM fare that we get that's very common for our artists like Celine to put out. But it's also harkening back to some of her, bigger, intimate, more powerful hits from, 2 decades ago. But the song I want to spend the most time talking about is the title track, Courage. I was, really hoping that this album would have big moments that are so emotive and powerful, but also stripped back. And we do get them on this record. That's something we didn't really get on her last English album. And so Courage is, again, it's a song that's only grown on me over time. It's quite a simple melody. I will admit the real part that sells me is the post chorus where she sings, I'm staring in the face of something new. You're all I have to hold on to. Just the way the vocal really soars there, it really elevates the track because the rest of it, it's kind of one note. Um, but it's a song that you can hear the falter and the trepidation in her voice. And when you look at the beautifully directed music video, which is again all black and white, some amazing silhouette and contrast and light work done for the studio in that she filmed that video in. It's so simple, so elegant, and so tear-jerkingly tragic in a way. Seeing her walking with poise and grace, and then falling against that, stool, and realizing, she's so overwhelmed with pain and suffering. This is so hard for her. The song Courage and the whole album is about, finding the will and the strength to survive through tough times. Celine's probably gone through some of the hardest years of her life most recently with the passing of her husband. And so she has had to, endure a lot. And it's funny, my parents were like, "Oh, you haven't lost a husband. Why are you so emotionally touched by this?" And I was like, it's the metaphor of it. The metaphor of this song. And also, I think the fact that, again, we are entering a new decade. And I think it's only fitting that Celine would drop such amazing album just as we kind of transition into whatever's next, right? And I take this song very personally to be about my own life, and where I feel like I am at. I feel like I have lost a husband, in terms of the grief that I'm dealing with, not physically, but emotionally and metaphorically, in all the things I've had to leave behind, all of the things in my life that have changed or have, left me. And I'm now in the scary sort of new road that's taking me somewhere, and I don't know where it's taking me yet. There's a lot that's up in the air that I'm afraid of. And so a song like this is meant to, empathize and sympathize with all those feelings. It's not meant to tell you that it's all going to be, it's all going to be okay, but it's okay to not feel okay in this moment. And so the simple fragility of this song is what really makes it stand up on its own two feet. And like I said, Celine at the piano, it's a win-win combination, with the orchestra behind her. There's no going wrong with this track. I am absolutely in love with it. Stephen Mochio was the main songwriter. And you can hear the power of songs like "A New Day Has Come." You can hear those powerful lyrics coming through, and the just very kind of simple but raw and beautiful and soaring melody that shines through. Again, it's a beautiful moment and one of my favorite songs on this record. And I think that this song has definitely elevated itself up to be one of my favorite songs of 2019. Okay, so those were the singles. We have, I talked about the other Sia Penn tracks. So we also have the song Baby, a simple, nice beat. We've got Sia's vocals kind of coming in the background, blending in. I think you can hear Sia the most on this track compared to the other two that she collabs with her on and wrote. Again, it sounds so classic Sia. It doesn't really, have any sort of originality to it, though. That's the only thing. But Baby is a nice moment. The melody is catchy. That's definitely an earworm. Heart of Glass is probably my favorite Sia Penn track on this record. I love this song just because it's a little bit more anthemic sounding. I love that lyric, "Up until now, I've been living in a heart of glass." I just feel like it's sort of the most personal out of the three Sia songs, whereas the others are just a lot of it feels very commercial. Again, some people might think of Celine's music as like just sounding really good, but it not having a lot of substance behind it, which again, I would tell those naysayers that, again, some of her more recent records have been like that, but this is an album that finally breaks from that mold for the most part, and it's so refreshing. So the Sam Smith song, "For the Lover That I Lost," probably one of the most honest songs about heartbreak and the loss of Renee on this record. You can definitely hear the Sam Smith influence, I think. It's just a simple piano with some nice sort of reverbed vocal back distortion. Um, I lay these roses out for you. I visit your grave. Every night I'm thinking about you. I knew that this record was going to be filled with melancholic, reflective, heartbreak songs. However, there's a song called "Falling in Love Again," which I think is the perfect answer song to this song. "Falling in Love Again" was written by Skylar Grey, and it has the hope that is the perfect answer to sort of the mournful lamentation that the lover that I lost is speaking of. And so "Falling in Love Again" is just a song that, I love both of them, but "Falling in Love Again" is a song I come to a little bit more, just because I think it's less produced, it's more stripped back, and it's very powerful and raw. Like there's some really strong vocal moments. She really uses her range towards the end, and it erupts in a beautiful way. And it's elegant at the same time. I mean, it's melancholy, it's elegant, it's hopeful. Speaking about, I can't believe that I have found someone again. And I mean, maybe Celine has. I'm sure she, is experiencing those emotions for the first time again after losing her husband and realizing, I can't believe I thought I would never, ever be with anyone else. I would, just as I thought I would live my life all alone, you show me the meaning of this life. I mean, that lyric hits me so hard. Hits me so hard. We have Say Yes, which is again, I think, the continuation of that story. We've got this guitar. It feels like a very sort of chilled, relaxed, kind of lounge bar track. Not really anything amazing, not really anything bad about it. It's just there. Um, Lovers Never Die. Again, when I heard this song and it was only track two, I was like, okay, it's not really doing anything for me. It's a little more Motown, so it's a bit dated in its sound, but it's also something that feels like it's very contemporary at the same time. It's a harmless track, but it's not really one that stands out to me at all. It just sounds like a lot of other tracks she's done in the past or that any other artist has. In The Innocent, Nobody's Watching, Celine talks about how she just wants to get her groove back. She just wants to enjoy and feel herself on the dance floor. And it says this carefree, innocent spirit. Again, though, some of these songs may sound to, the younger listener especially, like kind of cheesy. Like, oh, mom's trying to make, an EDM record and sound like she's, getting her groove back. And it's like, okay, But I think the real highlight moments of this record for me are the moments where she's just unapologetically bold and powerful with her vocals, and the compositions of the song are the most hopeful or melancholic. And so for me, there's two songs in particular that come to mind. The Hard Way, which is the closing song, I think is probably the strongest song on this record. And it's criminal that it's a bonus track. I have no idea why this song didn't make it onto the actual official album. It is just an absolute tour de force of a song. I mean, think of peak Celine belting out these powerful, raw, raspy vocals, singing, "You gotta break just a little, die just a little to come alive in the right way." And she sings that in the way that is so cathartic and anthemic that you just want to belt that at the top of your lungs and just run wild with it. It's a real power, flames erupting out of the earth type track. And it's the perfect way to close out this record. And for me, it's the perfect way to close out this decade because it's so uplifting. There's no other way to describe it. The production is just right too. It definitely pulls in the choir, the gospel element, but it doesn't feel too cheesy. Feels like it just sits there. I was really worried when I heard the gospel choir come in. I was like, I don't know if it needs this, but I think it works. I'm glad that it ends with it just her though. At the end, it doesn't try and build it into too much of a big thing. At the end of the day, it's just Celine taking us on this journey, telling us about how life is meant to be struggle, but it's all beautiful, it's all worth it. This is how life actually creates, beauty out of darkness for us. And no one better to tell us this, because I mean, as much as you might think, these celebrities live such rich, beautiful lives, they understand that as well. At least I believe most of them do. The closing track we get on the standard edition is called Perfect Goodbye. Now, this would be an interesting track for any Celine fan because they will see that E next to it, which means that it is explicit. And in the first time in the 38 years that she has ever recorded any music, English or French, she has never had a song with any swear words. And she does say S-H-I-T. This S-H-I-T is amazing. She sings in the chorus when she is speaking about, this beautiful romantic night she's spending with her lover. And I was really worried when I saw that at first because, again, I'm thinking, this is going to be really contemporary. And I saw Steve Aoki was the, person who worked on this track. And I was like, And then I heard in a review before I even listened to it that she sort of raps a little bit. And I was like, okay, this is going to be bad. The truth is, I mean, although she is definitely singing a little bit more than we're accustomed to, I wouldn't necessarily call it rapping. But the opening verses, yeah, it's a bit different for Celine. She's trying a new style. It's definitely not something that she's going to run with. It was just for those verses. It was just being a little fun, a bit spontaneous. I actually think it really works because this song is very sultry and inviting. And so the breathiness that it kind of imbues is actually really fitting. But what I was not expecting was for this song to caterwaul into this gorgeous, saccharine, romantic ballad, power ballad moment. Good night, baby. Stars in the sky. This is our perfect goodbye. So is this like a one night stand? Is this like knowing that, this will be the one time we'll be together? Is she reflecting on the last time she ever was with Renee, which is quite sad to think about. There's this gorgeous, shimmery keyboard work that just sort of filters in and out around the piano chords, which are just so romantic, soft, alluring. This song is very sweeping and elegant, and something I would expect from a Celine song, which makes me think of like Beauty and the Beast, and like that sweeping ballroom with the elegant chandeliers and the Swarovski crystals everywhere, and it's very rich, but it's gorgeous and it's elegant and it's the moonlight and it's this pure romance, like something I really wish I could experience. And this song took me there. Like, I have no else to think, nothing else to describe. The bridge is one of the most gorgeous Celine Dion bridges I have heard, at least in a long time. I mean, I heard it and I was just like, oh my heart. I mean, it's got that traditional, beautiful, rich tone that she delivers when she's really reaching for those notes, and it lingers with you. It's so rich, it's so beautiful. And like I said, with the instrumentation and the production, I was not expecting this song to be my favorite song on this record, and it's one of the tops for sure. Top 3 for sure out of the 20 we got here. Goodness gracious, I highly recommend you check out this track. I mean, it's so beautiful. It's such a moment. Okay, I mean, like I said, there's other bonus tracks. Again, for me, the only other song I really feel like mentioning is the stripped back acoustic song, The Chase, which is track 10. This is a song that has the most sort of, I think, nostalgia because it just sounds like one of her 90s songs. It feels a little bit more, I don't know, she sounds younger. I don't know how to describe it, but I think because, again, there's no editing done to her voice on this track, it just lets her run with her vocal. It just says, like, Celine, you do your thing. And we're not going to really try and encumber you with all this extra bells and whistles. And that's just something that I'm so relieved to see on an album like this. Because, like I said, this record could have been, and like the lead single was leading us to believe, just over the top in terms of production. And at the end of the day, chasing trends to a level that, like Madonna did with MDNA, or like in some ways Cher did with her most recent, independent album from 2013. Yeah, does anyone remember that record? What was it called? Closer to the Truth? I can't remember what was the album called, but anyway, it revokes the feelings of that. Actually, a lot of people are comparing this album to Cher's Believe record in 1998, because it was a critically acclaimed surprise big moment for an artist that people had fallen in love with for decades, but then sort of forgot about for a little bit, and then it was this huge later in career smash hit for Cher. And I think critics are comparing Courage by Celine to that, which I think is an apt comparison because this is the second coming of Celine Dion, in my opinion. Not that she's ever fully left, but I feel like this was her sitting down and being like, I want to make those bitches cry again. I want to really take us back to what music was about for me and really just run with that. And again, like I said, there are songs in here that could have been chopped out, but honestly, it's very strong. I Will Be Stronger, another moment. Feels like the closing to a movie. It's got that church organ back there, so there's that gospel and soul. Celine's music has always had a bit of that, and I think that sort of optimism is really pure, and I do prefer the sort of more minor keyed tracks. So I'll say like I Will Be Stronger isn't actually as strong as The Hard Way or some of the other tracks, but all of the uplifting moments on this record are still pretty strong. But like I said, if I had to recommend the best tracks, I would say Falling in Love Again, Imperfections, even though it's probably the most radio friendly and the most safe in terms of production, I think it's still actually a real highlight. The Chase, For the Lover That I Lost, Perfect Goodbye, Heart of Glass, and The Hard Way. Those are the best tracks in my opinion, though again, there's a lot of others that are pretty good too. All in all, this is an unapologetic, triumphant record, and it's one that is all about hope beyond hope, and it speaks to the dark times I think that a lot of us are living in. And the only thing I will leave this on, it is a little bit unfortunate that I noticed on her album cover that she's a little bit airbrushed. Many of us probably are aware Celine doesn't look like that on her, you know, in real life. And that's just one little nitpicky thing. Not so crazy about the album cover to me, to be honest. I just feel like it's like I said, you know, embrace. I'm a skinny guy too. I understand being like bone thin. And Celine is very, very thin, but maybe not in a way that's conventionally attractive. But so let's, you know, make her look curvier and make her, you know, widen the hips and everything. It's just it's not how she really looks. But anyway, it is what it is. That's Hollywood. That's the industry. Celine falls into that sometimes. The divas do it. It is what it is. But anyway, I don't want to leave on a negative critique because honestly, this is a wonderful record, and it's one I definitely would like for you to check out. Thank you all so much for watching. Check out this record. Come on, just because she's an older artist does not mean she can't run the charts and get #1 on Billboard. Like, I really want this album to do well. I really do. In the age of, you know, Gen Z, nothing against Gen Z, I'd really like to see Celine make a big, you know, splash again. Because some of these songs really deserve the success that they should have. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Peace, love, and light. Bye.